Welcome to the PHLY Sixers pregame show on the road as we broadcast live from Tiernanog on 16th and Arch as we get ready for NBA Cup game number 2 as the Philadelphia 76ers take on the Orlando Magic. We're hanging out with you. We hope that you get to come kick it with us. Bree is here. Derek, Kyle, I'm Devon, and this should be a fun one tonight as Joel Embiid and Paul George are set to get their second game under their belt together tonight in Orlando.
Yes, sir.
And once again, some NBA Cup implications for this one.
It's a big one.
We'll see what this one is all about. Our pregame show is presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. Or if you come hang out with us here at Tiernanog, you can get your Coors Light right here on tap here in the building with us. Well, man, we missed you on the show yesterday, of course, but we have to talk about the big fella and Paul George back here tonight for their second game this evening together out there on the floor. Your thoughts of them coming back and, again, in this matchup in particular against the Orlando Magic, a team that has a defensive profile, a pretty good defensive profile,
yes,
and could give these guys some fits tonight.
So they've been – obviously, I think I was the highest on Orlando coming into the year of the three of us, but all of us were relatively high on the young core and all that. They have tapered off a bit since Paolo Banchero went down with an injury and has been out for some time. But I think for them, the nice thing is, if there's a nice thing about your star player being injured, you can bring in a guy like Jonathan Isaac, who, while he doesn't have the offensive firepower that Paolo brings, incredible, versatile defender. And so this is a team that can just lock you down for stretches of the game. And then when they turn you over, when they can get out on misses, can score in transition. They have a few guys who can bring it up, a few guys who will, flank whoever the ball handler is at a given time. So that's something to watch out for, especially because Nick Nurse keeps saying transition defense, transition defense, transition defense has been a big thing that they have not necessarily done well. Mm-hmm. That's also something to watch for Joel Embiid specifically, right? He gets his wind back, he gets his legs back. He needs to get up and down the floor and help in that department. So, but I think the main thing that we all want to see tonight, that all the fans want to see tonight, is will Joel look more like Joel Embiid, right? Like, I'm not expecting 35 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, like crazy Joel lines that we were getting in December last year, the point per minute, like Wilt Chamberlain. He will still be on the minute restriction. But I want to see him be more aggressive on offense. I don't want to see as much of the just standstill jump shooting. I want to see the jab step. I want to see him show confidence in that knee. Drive with some power. Put his shoulder into somebody. Go through people. Draw contact. Get free throws in that way. To me, and I know there's a new starter tonight that we're certainly going to talk about in a moment, but I think the most important thing that we need to see is the progress from Joel. It's going to be incremental. It's going to be slow. It'll take some time, but we do need to see progress as he, I hate to use the phrase, as he ramps back up.
I was going to say, Kyle, the most important thing or the most interesting thing in today's game 20 minutes ago would have been how Joel Embiid looks in his second game back. But there is a major development, and that is that Jared McCain is starting in the starting lineup over Kelly Oubre Jr. alongside of Kyle Lowry.
Kelly's been snaking anyway, so just go ahead and put him in.
Paul George and Joel Embiid. I understand that Joel Embiid, to win it or even compete for a title, to get to the playoffs, Joel Embiid has to look like Joel Embiid. Mm-hmm. But this has instantly ratcheted up to number 1 on my interest power rankings, in large part because it's like the one thing we have right now to be excited about. And gosh, if I don't need a little optimism in the world right now, and Jared McCain is providing that. So how he looks alongside Paul George and Joel Embiid, obviously this is his chance to play alongside of them and against a really, really tough defensive squad. Orlando is second in the league in defense right now. They have a backcourt led by Suggs, who is absolutely incredible defensively, and you assume that you're not going to put Suggs on Kyle Lowry, no disrespect intended, respectfully, as Martian would say.
We don't have to be that respectful, I don't think.
But, I mean, that is the matchup on the perimeter that you're looking to shut down if you are Orlando, and this game just got a heck of a lot more interesting, at least for me.
Well,
yes, it did.
Devon, I think the most interesting thing is that he's not starting over Lowry, he's starting over a wing. Like that in itself is a pretty big wrinkle.
I think both together he's been that good, and Kelly Oubre has been that disappointing in the role that he has had too. And Caleb Martin looking much better in the last couple of games offensively as well goes a long way to making the decision that Nick Nurse did. And you can also look at, all right, bringing some other punch off the bench with the athleticism of the Orlando Magic. How you want to counter that with their wings that they have on the other side when they make their substitutions as well. But Jared McCain has been so good, as we talked about that, and of course, after the game on Tuesday, after the game on Wednesday, and then certainly, Derek, us discussing it yesterday, how soon is this going to be a conversation? Well, we got our answer, and it's one that's important because when you bring up the Embiid part of getting some easier shots, and you look at what Jared McCain has done, he has shot made. So since he has shot made, they're going to have to make sure that they defend him a certain way.
Yeah.
Kelly Oubre wasn't doing that. And with him not doing that, maybe he provides something different off the bench. Then I'll add to the point of with Embiid and what you want to see from him getting some work done early, not only getting to the basket, putting the shoulder into a defender, but also his bread and butter of that mid-range jump shot.
Yes.
Can he work that pick and roll, that pick and pop with both McCain and with Lowry, where it's a threat there, where he can get into a good rhythm, a good groove for what we know him to be, as that's a layup for him. Can he knock that down, get back into his rhythm? Have if Batazzi is starting, make him pay. No Wendell Carter Jr. Yes, Jonathan Ice is going to be in there. He's a fantastic defender, but he's also a slighter defender where Embiid can put his elbow, his shoulder into his chest and maybe get him into some foul trouble also. But getting that early jump shot going for Joel Embiid is very important, and having somebody who can make a shot coming off of that pick and pop, make them respect him on the perimeter to allow Embiid to have the space to work. That's going to be a big development here tonight for them out there on the floor.
Yeah, and so as I'm trying to process the McCain decision right now. I'm with Derek. It's like the number one thing on my mind now. I think what's most interesting about deciding to go over Oubre is that I think we would all say, like, at this point, he's ahead of Kyle Lowry, right? Jared McCain, like, he has way outplayed him. They just have a lot more reason to play him, develop him, give him a decent-sized role, right? By playing him next to Kyle Lowry, you are planting the seed of he's going to start next to Tyrese Maxey. And what does it look like? Now, obviously, Tyrese Maxey and Kyle Lowry are not the same in many ways, right? But they are smaller guards. Mm-hmm. They are guys that have some shared deficiencies on the defensive end, like who can pick on them, how they might be exploited by another team. And so Nick Nurse is in some ways being proactive about, okay, what does it look like when Joel, PG, and Caleb have to cover up for a small backcourt like this, where we're selling out to get shooting, we're selling out to get some more offensive firepower, some better floor spacing around Joel, around Paul, around this whole group to put that on the floor. Let's see it now. Let's see what he looks like with Kyle Lowry, because if he can make it work with Kyle Lowry, that already tells you this should work with Tyrese Maxey. We should be able to build on this, and that can potentially be something that they do the rest of the year, or at least for long stretches of the year. So I think this is people have given, including me, Nick, some grief for how he's managed the team, what he's done with lineups, and how the offense is set up. I love this as a proactive move. You reward the young player. You also look at something that's similar stylistically to maybe what happens over the long term. And we could be looking at the beginning of, the Maxey McCain backcourt era before it even starts. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, starting alongside Kyle means that there is a pretty good chance. I'm not going to say anything certain because he could come up, stink it up tonight. Right. Orlando could pick on them. It could be untenable. But it certainly seems like this is a pathway towards him starting alongside Maxey. And this is something Devon and I talked about yesterday. I'm working on an article that will come out over the weekend on why I think Jared should continue to start even when Tyrese comes back. So I sort of appreciate this bit of good news because it's something to build on.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for the content. That's
perfect
great.
Content. It's always about us. But, here's what I'll think about it. I think Jared has graduated. Like, let's say if he can't play alongside Maxey, that means he's limited to 10 minutes per night? I think he's graduated beyond that. So if you're going to have to try to find some time with him alongside Maxey, where would you want those minutes to come? Yeah. And for me, it's alongside Joel Embiid, alongside Paul George, and alongside Caleb Martin, when you at least have the defenders in the front court to switch or to have some scheme diversity where you can try to cover up those two. So if you're going to sit here and say, all right, he has to play more than 10 minutes per game, and I think that's clear. There's no doubt about that. I want it coming alongside Joel Embiid, and I want it coming alongside those big two wings. So I think this makes sense. And now when you go to the bench, I think you have to look at it and say, all right, now when you go to the bench, that's when you split up Tyrese and Jared. That's when you tie Jared to Joel's hip, and you have him initiate a lot of those things because Joel Embiid's going to be dominating a lot of the offense from the nail. Let Jared learn how to play off of that. Yes. I think this is a pretty good step.
The other part is the Kyle Lowry piece. If he does stink it up, because there is a possibility that just simply happens. He's a rookie. Things like that are going to happen.
Just have a bad game.
Yeah, just have a bad game. And if he decides, Nick Nurse, that he does want to put him back on the bench, insert Kelly Oubre back in the lineup, we discuss who is he taking the spot off the bench. Well, Kyle Lowry's going to play. It's just a matter of how much. But also getting a little bit, it's minor, but it's still something because if Maxey does come out the game and Oubre does come out the game, if he's back into the starting lineup and you do bring in Lowry with McCain, we now have a sample size of what that also looks like, leaving Embiid and George on the floor for those two with Caleb Martin or maybe even Yabusele coming into the game for Caleb Martin at that point, that you do get a chance to see what the two bench guards looks like with those two out there on the floor. So it's further down the line, but still something on that list of taking a look at what that also could potentially look like with this group. So this is fun. And I also like this too. Nick Nurse knows exactly what he's doing by throwing him into the fire with that backcourt that he's going to oppose tonight.
Yeah.
Two all-NBA level defensive type of guards, certainly Jalen Suggs. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they brought him in here for the reason to slow down guys like this. Well, when they go for a switch and they try to get – you're going to have to run into one of them.
No weak links in this
and you can't run
chain.
away from it.
Yep.
So with it, Nick Nurse is saying, fine, we're going to throw you right into it. This is what you want. This is what you're going to get. Let's see how you respond to this. You did well in the Cleveland matchup. They are, though, not the defensive type of guards that you're going to face tonight that you did on Wednesday. You got their attention because you were doing a fantastic job, but he's going to sick these dogs on you immediately when you get out there. So this is going to be a fun matchup between the Magic and the Sixers with these two. Surprising. A minor surprise because we did discuss it, but this is surprising.
Well, it's one thing for us Yahoos on a freaking podcast discuss. Another thing for an NBA head coach to do it.
It's also one thing for him to start, and it's another thing to say Kelly is getting benched, right?
Yeah.
Because when they moved a wing to the bench during the preseason, it was always Caleb. Like that was the guy. Like Nick said, he's one of our 5 best players, but we think we can use him in a different way. And so let's look at it from that perspective, right? Like this is a pretty significant move to look at Kelly on a night where you're still a little shorthanded without Maxey and you're trying to get stuff to work. And you're saying, we think you're going to serve us better off the bench. And that's a topic all of us have discussed quite a bit, right? That maybe at some point Kelly moves into more of a 6-man bench energy type role. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is what he needs to get himself going and back in the right mindset, right? Because the shooting's been bad. He's had some moments. Like the other night, in a night where they needed everybody, Kelly had some moments as a slasher, and obviously we've seen him play successfully off of Joel. But now you're bringing a level of athleticism and a dynamic off the bench. Maybe you can let him. I don't want to say you let him eat more because Kelly has no problem like taking the ball and doing whatever he wants with it, right? But I think this is an early like, hey, we're 10 games in and you haven't lived up to the standard we need you to.
Yep.
And now we need you to adjust to a different role, one that he played at times last year, right? He wasn't starting the entire season. So we'll see. I want to see how he responds. Hopefully he takes it as the challenge that it should be rather than a big demotion, right? I'm sure he's still going to play plenty of minutes, but that's another big story to watch coming out of this as well.
Well, and that is one thing. We can sit here, and he might be able to play as many minutes as he normally does. A lot of players do take pride in that starting. So does he see it as a demotion? And if that he does feel that way, because he's been starting for a while now, does he bring the same level of defensive engagement that he has up to this point, which I've been pretty consistently happy with and surprised about? So those are that would be sort of like my concern. But I do want to give Nick a little bit of credit here, because a lot of times fans will, yell at coaches, Nick, Doc, not Brett because he only had young players, but any coach trying to win and be like, why aren't you playing the young kids more? And I'll a lot of times defend and be like, look, yes, I would like these young players to play more, but coaches, especially coaches who are trying to win, tend to default to veterans. And so for a coach to sort of get out of that mindset and start not only just a rookie, 11 games into his NBA career, but a 20-year-old rookie, a pretty young rookie at that, I give him credit for even trying it. Like we've said, you never know what's going to happen. This doesn't mean he's going to be starting for the next 71. But giving it a shot now, when I think he's earned it, I give Nick credit for that.
Yeah, man. So just looking at the Orlando Magic and where they're going with their starting lineup tonight, they're going Suggs and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, of course, in the backcourt. No Paolo Banchero. So at the in the front court, Tristan Da Silva, the rookie wing, getting the start there, and Franz Wagner, of course, and Goga Bitadze at the 5 spot for the Orlando Magic. So with that, we look at some of the matchups here, as we discussed already, the starting 5 for the 76ers. Kyle Lowry, Jared McCain, along with Caleb Martin, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. What are you looking at? You've already talked about the 2, but are there any other matchups that may grab your attention?
So I want to see whether they go out and hunt Da Silva, right? Which is not to say that I think he's an awful defender, but I think he's got limitations in space. I think he's a good team defender, or was a good team defender in college. But asking him to start and asking him against a team that now is starting 2 smallish guards, McCain, who's shown a little more dynamism off the dribble than we expected, Paul George, who he will, I would say more than likely, try to hunt some switches a little bit. And that honestly could be, maybe they'll use KCP as the primary guy on him, but you could end up like Da Silva is checking Paul George, and you want to try to manufacture some looks where he's going to get him in isolation and see what Paul does with that.
Yep.
So I want to see how that plays out, right? Whenever you get and the Magic are probably looking at McCain the same way, right? Whenever you get a rookie in the starting lineup on a team that's trying to compete now and trying to win and not just develop, it's always like, all right, well, let's test them. Let's see how much they actually want to play this kid. The Magic are definitely going to do that to McCain. I think the Sixers should do that to Da Silva, who much bigger, but has some known limitations that we talked about as we got into his draft profile and things like that. So we'll see how long he lasts. Maybe they switch to Isaac at a later point. Might be a quick hook for him if things go poorly. So that's one thing I'm watching early on in this game.
They're definitely going to go with Pope on George.
Yeah.
You have to start there with Suggs taking the McCain responsibility, so you'll see where they're going. As you said, see how they hunt down Da Silva and Franz Wagner, to be perfectly honest with you. Decent defender, but still someone that you feel like you can take advantage of, especially if you get him in foul trouble, get him in the mix. Anything for you that you're focused on with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little interesting because of the lineups that Orlando can throw out there, this is one of their weaker ones. Outside of Suggs, there's just there are some, I don't want to say exploitable defenders, but not a whole lot of shutdown defenders. Isaac is a big part of what they do, especially with Banchero out. I'm interested in how they attack him. That's an interesting decision to start him there, and along with Goga, like there's just some places you can go.
Yeah. So now it's about what Kelly Oubre does coming off the bench. Can he then attack some of those younger players that they bring off the bench, maybe going against them, or Tristan Da Silva in the game? Franz Wagner, can he get himself into a nice rhythm? The Wagner brothers, we know who they are. I don't know what Anthony's role is. Is he healthy? He looks to be healthy. So you're going to have that one as one. But where does now Eric Gordon fit into this? And Reggie Jackson, for that matter, since he played a little bit better in the last outing, where do they fit in this with McCain starting and Oubre going to the bench? So
my guess is Gordon ends up an odd man out here, right? I think with Lowry and McCain starting, I think that Reggie might end up playing, needing the guy who's like that. I don't want to call him a pure point because he isn't one, right? In fact, if you guys saw the other night, I didn't notice just how flippant he was about it in real time. That one McCain shot in the fourth quarter where he did not want to give Jared the ball and finally was like, fine, take it, and threw it in his direction. Reggie has been very reluctant to move and share the ball. It's been a whole heck of a lot of it's Reggie Jackson time. But I do still think that he's viewed in that point guard role, right? And I think given where McCain is at, given that Oubre is going to take quote-unquote bench minutes, I think my guess would be Gordon either plays less or not at all, and that Reggie gets that maybe 10, 15-minute type role as a backup ball handler. But we'll see, because this has honestly thrown me for a loop. I was kind of expecting if you're going to play McCain, you play him over Lowry. Lowry becomes the 15 to 20-minute backup type guy. McCain gets the rest of the minutes. So I don't know quite yet what Nick Nurse is looking for from the rest of the rotation. And I do believe we saw Andre Drummond is in tonight. Now, whether Nick chooses to use him, that's another thing I'm monitoring, right? Because not only has he struggled on the floor, he's been sick. So he could be available, but we saw last year with a guy like Nick Batum where it's like he's available, but they have no intent to play him because of, illness, injury, whatever it might be.
Yeah, what about the Yabusele piece now? Because of that, if he decides to go, the guy he's going to go to is Yabusele there, and we get a chance again to see Yabusele at both the 4, maybe the 5 tonight, getting a glimpse of what that could look like, again, continuing to go forward with how he plays next to Embiid, off of Embiid, and if Drummond does not have it, we saw even against Charlotte where Nick Nurse is like, okay, cool. You come off the bench, and I'm starting this guy at the 5.
Well, let me ask you, what do you think that if, let's say, Drummond was fully healthy and not sick, who do you think should be the backup? Because this is one of the matchups where they've got a pretty big front court. And this might be one where Yabu might struggle against a little bit.
I would stick with the Drummond. Stick with the Drummond part of it. Just to, again, we said we wanted to see it. We haven't seen it yet, so we got to continue to see it and get an idea of it. While he's made this change and being proactive with the McCain piece of it, Yabusele's going to play. He's just going to play in a different position. So I would prefer to see Drummond still as the backup 5. But if it does not work, that, yes, you get a quick hook. Yabusele, you get the 20 minutes tonight at both the 4 and the 5.
So I think you have to play, unless this is a active in name only for Drummond, I think you have to play him here because, to the point, like, this is a team with size. This is not one of the Charlotte with like Grant Williams playing center and you're masquerading as. And if you're already on November 15th basically saying, no, we'd rather play Yabusele,
almost irrespective of matchup.
Yeah, then that you're basically giving up on Drummond as a signing. I think you have to show some level of trust in him and some level of belief in him. You don't want to be in mid-November for a guy that is a regular season player, right? We said from the beginning, this is a guy that needs to be an innings eater, someone who can give them minutes, give them time, production as a regular season guy, because we're not that strong a belief in him as a playoff type guy. You can't give up on him this early. We've all been banging the drum on how bad the splits are, on how much he struggled. I still think you have to go to him and just hope that he can pull out of this a little bit.
It is funny that you say innings eater, which is something I've said throughout the offseason as well. And I know you're not a baseball guy, but one of my baseball takes is innings eater is word for not actually good enough, but getting too many innings and opportunities than they deserve. But I do agree with you. No judgment on the basketball analogy here. No, I do agree with you, though, that this is a matchup that would favor Drummond. That if you're not going to play him here, then when are you going to play him outside of games that Embiid doesn't miss? And this is a matchup, besides the size that Orlando has, they're the number 1 defensive rebounding team in the league right now. So if you want to try to win the possession battle, you need someone who's going to pursue like that. And Drummond hasn't been great on the defensive glass, but he has still been pursuing pretty well on the offensive glass. Yeah. It will be, I think this is probably a matchup that dictates Drummond.
Looking at the 4-game winning streak for the Orlando Magic, Franz Wagner, 28 points, 5 boards, 6 assists.
Still not shooting, but he's scoring.
He's scoring. He is scoring. It's still at 30% from deep, 47% from the field. But that's a pretty darn good number there. Stat line there.
28, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
boy.
Man.
You can shoot 10% from 3, and that's a good stat line.
Especially when you're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the important point.
Yeah. And you are the offensive hub with Paolo Banchero down because of his injury. Paul George back for game number 2 with Joel Embiid, 29 and 10 in the game. The loss against the New York Knicks on Tuesday. The NBA Cup game, they are minus 12 in the standings right now. In the NBA Cup, got to make up some ground. Orlando's a plus 25 at the top with the Knicks, number 2, a plus 12 after the Sixers win. Let's get to our Bet365.
Well, these are definitely locks.
These are locks. Bet365 pregame pick segment. Pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365, not Jared McCain. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Let's give them to you. We're going with the big fella, parlay, big fella. He had 13, 2 for 11 from the floor. That's not happening again. Now, to your point, not asking for 34 or 35. I'm not doing that. I saw one where someone placed a bet on Bet365 before the game on Tuesday. They won 30-10. I'm like, he's not doing that.
Oh,
no.
You've never seen Joel's first game back from injury before, man.
Right. So this is game 2. So in the parlay, I went with Derek's not tailing. Joel Embiid, 20-plus points in this game tonight against the Orlando Magic, getting going early. I look for Nick Nurse to try to get Joel Embiid going early and often against Batase, depending on how the double teams happen, where it goes, whether it's low on the block, back to the basket, jump hook, maybe a layup. Who knows? But also something in that mid-range area where we know from the elbow that he can knock that down at a pretty good clip. And pairing that with Jared McCain has been phenomenal in the month of November from behind the three-point line. I just went modest with 2+ just because of who the defensive guards are, the wings that they have with Tristan Da Silva also maybe get on the switch. And I went with 2+ threes. That's at -105. So you have to put a little money on it, maybe a couple bucks, but we're getting back on the right track here on Bet365.
McCain Hive, he is at _Devon Givens on Twitter, just so you know where to direct your anger to.
That's exactly where to go. Hey,
Devon the Mush Givens.
Hey, you know it. Hey, I went with under 18.5 against Cleveland. He got 34.
Oh,
he got
man.
34. And that pregame pick segment, again, brought to you by Bet365. Using code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. The NBA Cup. Still like it?
Better than the stupid proposal for the All-Star game that just got rolled out.
I didn't know if you guys
earlier,
wanted to talk about that now or post-game.
It came out while I was driving, so I've not actually had a chance, outside of the tournament, I've not actually had a chance to see the details yet.
Here's my abbreviated take before we lay it out later and get to it. How about people just care about the events that exist? Maybe instead of trying to manufacture people caring, the guys who are in the league act as stewards of the league instead of just like, I'm a brand ambassador for 800 different companies. How about that? How about you just play in the All-Star game and make it an enjoyable product for fans because it's the right thing to do? How about that? Yeah. That's all I had to say on that for now.
Yeah, the committee involving Steph Curry and other NBA stars around the league and trying to figure out how to improve the product. Yeah, care about the game.
Need a committee to say, how about you just care about the game? Like, it's not that complicated, fellas.
You know there's going to be some other financial implications somewhere in there to raise that pot to get them some more money to care about the game.
And listen, I'm not like you make as much money as you can make as an NBA player or an athlete or anything, any job. Get your money. I never begrudge anyone for getting your money. Just like once you get it, keep doing the job. That's all. That's all I ever ask, right?
I agree.
That's all I would ask of you guys. That's all I'll ask of NBA players.
Yeah, so a big matchup here tonight, and we'll see how this one plays out overall. This is the start of a 3-game road trip for the Philadelphia 76ers, beginning tonight with the Orlando Magic. Monday, the Miami Heat in Miami, and Wednesday, they face off against Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis before returning home on Friday for a matchup back in Philadelphia, where they get the confines of the center in front of all of you rabid Sixer fans. All right, any thoughts, last-minute thoughts, predictions quickly of how this one plays out?
Time to start a winning streak. That's what I'm saying.
Starting winning streak.
Start a winning streak tonight. Joel, not great, but better. Paul George, solid. Jared McCain, good first start. Get some energy from Kelly off the bench, beat these guys, and go on a run. Now's the time.
I agree. I'm thinking like 24 points from Embiid on like disappointing like 5 for 15 shooting, but he gets the line a ton.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, absolutely. All right. I think they will keep this one close, maybe even eke out a win. Joel Embiid is back. Paul George looked good on Tuesday. Let's see how these guys look together with Jared McCain on the floor. This pregame show is presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. We're at Tierney here on 17th and Arch. Come hang out with us. 16th and Arch.
16th and
Come
Arch,
hang out with us here at 16th and Arch so we won't get you lost. 16th and Arch. Come hang out, have some food, have some drinks. Of course, the Coors Light. We mentioned $5 Coors Light here tonight.
Already seen some of our people start to trickle in as we're hanging out here.
And when you walk in, we are to your right directly. We got it on the projection screen on the 2 TVs to our left. You see the bar right behind us. It's going to be a fun time tonight. Maybe we'll be talking about a Sixers win after the game right here on PHLY Sixers podcast. For Bree, Kyle, Derek, I'm Devon. We'll come back with you post-game right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Enjoy.
We all silly like the